Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much to those of you who watched the first part of my Westlife Memories content. Today I'll give you part 2. For those who haven't watched the first part, I will link it above. And just to fill you in, where I left the story, I had just met someone on the Westlife chat room to meet up in London and hopefully go and see the boys. So it's now August the 4th, 1999. As she didn't agree to my absurd plan, my mum refused to drive me to the train station that morning. Instead, I booked a taxi for 6:15 a.m. The phrase "off my head" springs to mind when I think back on this, and even more so when I remember that I was so excited that I told the driver exactly what I was planning to do. When I reached Waterloo, I was beginning to have a few fears about what this girl was going to be like. I had never arranged to meet a perfect stranger before, let alone less than 24 hours after our first conversation. But these fears soon subsided when she arrived and seemed like a perfectly nice person. Off we went to TV Centre in a cab. £8 each when the day had hardly begun, and I should have realised then that this was far too expensive a hobby for me. When we arrived at the BBC, there were only 4 girls there. One of them wearing a woolen hat and large puff anorak. Had I mentioned this was the hottest day of the year so far? We distanced ourselves from them at first, as they didn't seem overly friendly. The hat girl spoke first, after about an hour. "You here for Westlife?" in a voice that made us terrified to admit it for fear of being beaten up. Eventually I just nodded. Not wanting to give up, she continued, "Who's your favourite? Mine's Anto." We were a bit confused by this, as there was no one in the band with that name, and seeing that we were baffled, she realised we were newbies. It turned out Anto was the tour manager. With these girls, who had for whatever reason decided to take us under their wing, we left the BBC at about 10 without having seen the guys. I could hear my mother saying "I told you so" with every passing second. But the other fans didn't seem concerned, and now I know that followers mustn't give up just because of one letdown. We arrived at LWT on London's South Bank, ironically right back where we started, only to be told that Westlife had already arrived. I learned that to be a follower you must be patient, as if they are in a building, at some point they will have to leave. Suddenly, just when I was beginning to give up hope, there was a movement of girls from one exit to another, like a herd of rampaging bulls. I hadn't got there quite as quickly as the others, but could see over the tops of the girls' heads that there were some attractive Irishmen, all dressed in black, now standing around outside the building. I counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone was missing, and my heart started to thump because it was Mark who wasn't there. I just remember looking from one to the other and going, "Where's Mark?" repeatedly in increasingly urgent tones. "Don't worry," says one of the girls. "Come and meet Shane." I am processing these words in my brain and thinking, how can she say "don't worry"? Mark is the man of my dreams, and Mark is the reason I got up so early this morning. But when I am less than a metre away from the wonder that is Shane Filan, I temporarily forget Mark's absence. By this point I am shaking like a leaf. I must have looked a state, and the girl introduces me to him. I give him my magazine to sign and murmur my thanks, and that is that. I don't particularly remember seeing the others at LWT, because before I know it the meeting is over and we are being ushered into a taxi which my friend agrees to pay for. It is at this point that my eyes are being opened to the fact that the girl clearly has more money than sense, but I'm not about to complain when they say "follow that Prev." Planet Hollywood is renowned as the biggest rip-off in London, or in fact any other city in which it has taken up residence. But it is to this restaurant that we go for lunch. The guys have gone straight through to the dining area, still with no sign of Mark, but I am hearing whispers of Mark is still at LWT doing a telephone interview, and I force myself not to panic. The day is far from over yet. We had to wait in the bar for a table, and I had my back to the door when my friend said, "I think that's Mark who's just come in." I turned, trying to be casual, but all the while my heart was beating at twice its normal rate. Just for a moment our eyes met, and I literally went weak at the knees, because this guy, who was already gorgeous on the telly, was absolute perfection in real life. Because I was so mesmerised, I couldn't say hi or anything, so Mark carried on walking and joined the other guys, who were there to have lunch with a competition winner, by the way. I do feel a bit bad that we invaded her meet, so sorry if she's watching this. We tried to eat, having paid the astronomical prices we felt we should, but my band was on the other side of the restaurant and I was not used to being that close to them yet. I will never forget the sight of Mark doing his little head bop thing to Living La Vida Loca when it came on the sound system. It was so cute. Then they were leaving, and so were we, and as I am completely incapable of speech, it was one of my new friends who introduced me to Mark and asked him to pose for a photo with me. And then his arm is around me and I am so happy I think I could burst, and the photo is taken. Then I actually managed to form a coherent sentence, and I ask him to sign my magazine, which he does, but he then goes on to read the article in typical Feely short-sighted style, with his head about an inch from the page. If only I wasn't so dumbstruck, it would have been a great opportunity for a chat, but 18-year-old me was insanely shy, so there wasn't much chance of that. After Planet Hollywood, we headed to the studios of the satellite channel Nickelodeon, and had some further entertainment from Shane, Mark and Brian, who hung out the window to talk to the 20 or so girls who were gathered there. At one point Shane got a call from his mum, and while he stepped away from the window to take it, Brian coached us all to shout out, "Hello, Mrs. Filan." Then Shane came to the window and held up the phone so his mum could hear. Brian was so impressed that we then did the same with his mum and his friend Carl. The passers-by didn't know quite what to make of it all. At that point Westlife weren't very well known to anyone other than teenage girls. I was having a great time, but decided to go before the guys left Nickelodeon, as I was meant to help my mum babysit my nephews that night. So I left, content that a dream had come true. But would that one meeting be enough for me? Well, you'll just have to subscribe to find out. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to give me a big thumbs up if you liked the video, and leave me a comment below if you have any questions. Bye for now.